You know that moment when you're just washing the dishes, mind wandering peacefully, and suddenly, bam, a thought pops in like, what if I just dropped this plate on purpose? It catches you off guard, makes you pause, and you wonder, where did that come from? Am I okay? If you've ever felt that flicker of confusion or even shame about a random, unwanted idea sneaking into your head, you're not alone. In fact, what if I told you these so-called intrusive thoughts aren't a sign something's wrong with you, but actually a quirky feature of a healthy, creative mind? Stick around, because by the end of this journey, you'll see them in a whole new light, and maybe even embrace them. Welcome back to Inner Compass, your quiet space for rediscovering the path back to yourself. Today, we're diving into intrusive thoughts, those uninvited mental visitors that show up without warning. Think of your mind like a busy airport. Planes, thoughts, are constantly landing and taking off, most on schedule. But every now and then, a rogue one veers in unexpectedly. Science tells us this happens to nearly everyone. Studies from places like Harvard show that up to 90% of people experience them regularly, from harmless what-ifs to more vivid scenarios. They're not a disorder. They're just your brain's way of processing the world, testing boundaries, and staying alert. But here's the mystery we'll unravel. Why do they feel so jarring? And how can understanding them lead to deeper self-awareness? We'll explore this through 5 key insights, each building on the last. And trust me, the 5th one might surprise you with its hidden gift. Let's start this gentle exploration together. First, let's demystify what intrusive thoughts really are and why they're more normal than you think. Picture your brain as a wild garden. Most days, it's blooming with intentional flowers. But weeds, those random thoughts, pop up naturally, often triggered by stress, fatigue, or even something as simple as caffeine. For example, I remember a time when I was driving home after a long day, and out of nowhere, my mind flashed to swerving off the road. Shook me, but when I learned it's just the brain's threat simulation mode, evolved from our ancestors to prepare for dangers, it lost its power. You might experience this during a quiet walk, thinking, what if I jumped in front of that car? Not because you want to, but because your mind is rehearsing what-if scenarios to keep you safe. The key, recognizing they're not commands, just echoes. If this rings true for you, take a breath. It's your brain being brilliantly protective. But before we go deeper, if you're finding these insights lighting up your own inner path, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Why? Because every week we uncover more tools like this to navigate your thoughts. Imagine never feeling alone in your mind again. Okay, moving on. Second, understand the science behind them to ease that inner tension. Your brain's default mode network, the part that daydreams and wanders, kicks in during downtime, mixing memories, fears, and creativity. It's like a DJ remixing tracks without asking. Sometimes it spins something upbeat, other times something off-key. Research from psychologists like Dr. Daniel Wegner shows that trying to suppress thoughts often makes them louder. It's called the white bear effect, where telling yourself, "Don't think of a white bear," guarantees you'll picture one. In my own life, during a stressful job transition, intrusive thoughts about failure bombarded me daily. Instead of fighting them, I started journaling them out, turning chaos into clarity. Try this. Next time one hits, note it down neutrally like, thought, dropping my keys down the drain. You'll see patterns emerge, and suddenly, they're less scary, more like curious visitors. Third, and this is where it gets fascinating, intrusive thoughts can actually be a sign of high creativity and empathy. Ever notice how artists or deep thinkers report more of them? It's because a vivid imagination doesn't have an off switch. It's always generating ideas, even the weird ones. Think of it as your mind's playground, where boundaries are tested safely. For instance, if you're someone who feels emotions deeply, You might get thoughts like picturing harm to a loved one, not from malice, but from an overactive empathy circuit worrying about what could go wrong. I once had a client in my coaching days who thought her random violent images meant she was broken, but we reframed them as her brain's way of processing compassion. To apply this, reflect. What if that weird thought is just your creativity flexing? Journal 3 times a week about one day, asking, what strength is hiding here? You'll uncover gifts you didn't know you had. But stick around. The 5th insight ties it all together in a way that might change everything. 4th, let's talk practical ways to handle them without letting them derail your day. Start by labeling. When one arises, say to yourself, that's just an intrusive thought, nothing more. It's like tagging a spam email so it doesn't clutter your inbox. Grounding helps too. Focus on your senses. Feel your feet on the ground. Name 5 things you see. I use this during walks. Once, a thought about tripping interrupted my peace, but counting breaths brought me back. For longer-term relief, mindfulness apps like Headspace have quick exercises. Try their 5-minute thought detachment session daily. Remember, ignoring them gently works better than wrestling. It's not about control, but coexistence. 5th, know when to seek a little extra guidance and embrace the growth it brings. Most intrusive thoughts are harmless, but if they're persistent, distressing, or tied to anxiety, OCD patterns, like repeating rituals to cancel them, chatting with a therapist can be transformative. It's like calling a gardener for those stubborn weeds. In my journey, I reached out during a tough phase, and it revealed how these thoughts were signals of unprocessed stress, leading to breakthroughs I never expected. If yours feel overwhelming, resources like the National Alliance on Mental Illness Hotline are a great start. Ultimately, these thoughts aren't enemies. They're invitations to deeper self-compassion. As we wrap this exploration, remember, your intrusive thoughts aren't flaws. They're part of the beautiful, complex compass guiding you inward. By understanding them, you're not just managing your mind, you're unlocking a quieter, more empowered version of yourself. You've got the tools now to turn what feels chaotic into a source of insight. If this journey resonated, why not join our growing community? Subscribe and hit the bell. It's your way to keep these discoveries coming, like our next video on turning self-doubt into quiet confidence. And tell me in the comments, what's one intrusive thought that's popped up for you lately? Your story could make someone else feel less alone. See you soon.